Hi, this is Adam Onslaught for Global Onslaught on Metal Nation Radio. Well, it's a very special year this year, an anniversary of sorts for the band Evil Masquerade. To mark their band's 10th anniversary, Evil Masquerade is releasing an album, 10 Years in the Dark, and it's actually coming out on the 10th of December, and the album features 10 digitally remastered tracks from the period between 2004 and 2014, and it's also got a nice spangly sort of booklet brimmed with photographs of the band past and present. And this evening I'm sitting here having a little chat with Mr. Henrik Flyman. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
How are you?
I'm actually really fine, and as we were speaking about a little bit earlier before we were speaking now, basically, I'm for the first time in quite a while up to date, up to schedule with basically everything I was hoping to do right now. So this is really strange and a good feeling.
A relaxed feeling, no doubt. I mean, you're probably one of the busiest men in rock that I know at this precise moment, because when you're not working with Evil Masquerade, you're on the road with Lacrimosa. So it's, you know, you've just come off a tour in Russia, and now you're back to now promote and to release this album that's coming out on the 10th of December. Now, what interests me, Henrik, is how the heck would you put a selection together like this? I mean, you've got a tremendous back catalogue of music. How would you sort of sit there and piece it together? Explain the process and how you come to pick those 10 tracks.
Basically, that question is really good, because I couldn't. I tried and I gave up, because it's you have to think in so many different ways, because you have maybe your favorite songs from all the albums, but at the same time, when I write a new album, for example, I also work a lot to get the flow of the album, to make it interesting from the first to the last song, and make it like an album you want to hear again. And if you just pick your favorite songs, it's not necessarily so that you have that flow to make that album work really well. So it was also a matter of finding the right songs, and also to maintain that flow throughout the album. And then again, it's really hard for me to do it, since I'm the songwriter, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the songs maybe I would appreciate the most is the same songs that the fans would appreciate the most, or even the same songs I would appreciate the most next week, because I change all the time. So in the end, I thought it doesn't really matter what I think, because somehow I like all the songs. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put them out on an album. Mm-hmm. So to make it really work, and to make it maybe more interesting, I have been without really telling our fans and our supporters, I have been occasionally asking on Facebook and on other forums when I have the chance, what people prefer, what songs are their favorites, and just to get the feel of it. And that's something I've done maybe over the last year, or at least half year, just to get the feeling about it. And then I have tried to use actually all of their favorites, and try to make a flow that will work throughout the album according to their ideas. So that's basically how I ended up with this track list on this album.
I mean, you look through the track list itself, it's got some absolute belters in there, some real great, you know, like Voodoo off the brand new album, The Digital Crucifix, but then you go back to The Wind Will Rise, and then even sort of more recent times, The Silhouette from 2012. It's a real mixed bag. Like you say, you went to speak to the fans about putting this album together.
Yeah, it was the only way to do it, because it was basically impossible for me to do it. And also one other criteria as well would be, of course, since it's celebrating the 10 years and all the albums we put out, of course we need to have something representing all the eras from the band, and again, the fans are much better in telling us, because like as you said, The Wind Will Rise, that's maybe not exactly what we have been doing for the last couple of albums. It was from our first album, and it was a really busy time, and a lot of playing, and solos just all over the place. And some people of our fans, they think still that's the best we did, especially several parts in South America, for example, and also in Japan. That's the era of Evil Masquerade many of them still think was the best. But since I have myself moved in another direction, what I've done lately, it wouldn't be fair to the fans not to put a focus on that era of the band which they think is the best. So and I think we have the best chance to get the whole spectrum of the band listening to what all the fans had to say, instead of just trying to be intelligent and do it ourselves right now, because then it would just be what we think 2014, and that wouldn't be fair to the idea, I think.
No, that's true. And going back over the last 10 years, we've had a few lineup changes, as most bands do over that sort of period of time. Do you think the Evil Masquerade now is the most comfortable that you've worked with, or do you sort of look back at the days at the beginning, you know, when you released Welcome to the Show? Do you look back on those days more fondly, or do you sort of think now, yes, I'm comfortable, this is the vision I see for the band?
Absolutely. Not that I didn't like what we did back then, but again, you have when you stand where I'm right now, or where I was like 2003 when we were starting to do, and 2004 when the album was put out, you have to do the best of what you have at that particular moment. And in that moment back in 2004, my idea, coming from where I came from with some strange bands that didn't work all that well, I had some ideas, and I think, if I can remember it right, one of the criteria I had was that the band should be located in the same city where I was. I think another thing I had was I didn't want I wanted more clear roles in the band, because in previous bands I've been in, I had never, for example, been in a band that had released more than 2 albums, and I wanted to try to play in a band that released 3 albums and 4 albums and 5 albums, because if I wanted to do another band, which I wasn't even sure about, that would be the band that would not stop. It would not be a band that do a few albums and then I move on to the next and the next. I want to be in a band that continues releasing albums. Now we're celebrating 10 years. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be in a band that just continued, and that meant we would have to have very clear roles, what we would do. And the thing that I have always tried to do in all the lineups we have had, even since the very first beginning, I really wanted the people to stay if they wanted to, but if there were problems or they had other priorities or whatever, it could not be the end of the band. It could be whether they were in the band or not, because the band needed to move on. If people didn't want to follow, okay, that's fine. If they wanted to, that was what I would have preferred always, and still is. I still want the people in the band to be in the band, but only if they're going to be there for the band. Otherwise, we will move on. The band will survive. Always.
And with regards now, obviously you've got the addition of Tobias, which is sort of the newest member, and a brand spanking new vocals, and the release of the Digital Crucifix. I'd like to talk a little bit about what is going on presently with Evil Masquerade, because I'd like to know more about whether your plans to tour this particular album, where those plans and tours are going to take you.
This year, I will not be on a stage even for one gig more, because I've been a bit busy enough with that, a little bit with Evil Masquerade and a whole lot also with Lacrimosa. Mm-hmm. And this year is probably the first year for sure in the history of Evil Masquerade, and probably ever for myself also as an independent artist, where I didn't have much time to write music. Normally I write all the time. I have tried to write a bit this year, but I didn't really have the time to do it full-heartedly to be able to come up with what I expect from myself. So now I need. Also, we are in the middle of November now, so it makes no sense to go out anymore this year.
Yeah.
So I want to try to now to tell about this anniversary, the year and the band, the anniversary album, And then let's see in the next year. But for now, I don't think, or I'm pretty sure, we will not play anything before March. If we get something in March, I'm open for it. But before March, I don't think I would be interested in playing, because I want to focus more on writing again. So that's basically my main idea about that. Next year, I know I will be busy also with Lacrimosa, but I will have plenty of time for Evil Masquerade as well. I hope to be able to have come up with enough material to write an album that is the best we have ever done, and I think I will do that. But that's why I need a few months now to be able to focus my brain on songwriting instead of being out on Russian night trains getting drunk on vodka.
Next to the military.
Next to the military.
That's an off interview conversation, unfortunately.
No, but I think everything has its place. But I think, of course, I really like being out playing live as well. But I also really like being able to write good music and record that. So to be able to do that takes time. It's nothing just do for a few weeks and then you have a new album. I think the fastest album I ever wrote for Evil Masquerade, I think that was Third Act, because we were talking about lineup changes and I knew I was writing for a new singer and it felt nice to move on. And I think just from the inspiration from everything, I think I wrote the whole album in 4 or 5 months or something.
Right.
And that is probably the fastest album I've written for Evil Masquerade. Or maybe Theatrical Madness, the second one, which is strange why that was so fast, because it's such a fucked up strange album. But I was, now when I was working with this booklet for the 10 years in the Dark album, the anniversary album, the booklet, we were asked lots and lots of photos in it, so I have gone through I don't know how many thousands of photos, and that was interesting to go back in also in the early days and see, and then I saw pictures from the studio we were recording, and it's looked like it was in quite late final stages of the production, and that was 2004, and that was basically the same year we released our debut album, so maybe that was pretty fast as well, the second one, but I think like 4 or 5 months, that's extremely fast for being me for an album, or it can be all the way up to a year maybe, depending on how much stuff I have going on around me. So to be able to put out an album next year, which will be a good album, otherwise we will not put it out, I need some time to be able to work with it.
10 Years in the Dark is really an album by the fans, for the fans, I guess, and with this addition of all these wonderful photographic memories, it's a great package for those people that are the real fans out there that like to collect and like to keep mementos and stuff for the band, which because the fan base is so worldwide, it's very difficult sometimes for people to get to see you. So I really think this is a great piece of musical history that people can invest in, and I just want to say, Henrik, thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us again. I know it's your downtime now where you're going to go off and do your writing and so on and so forth, but it's a real treat always to speak to you. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. It's always a pleasure, so thank you.